Welcome back, Tribe. I have an episode here from Diary of a CEO. Stop these 5 habits that are destroying your brain. This one will be interesting.
Brain worse. What are the common things that most of us do without thinking that make the brain worse?
When my daughter Chloe was in 2nd grade, I went to her classroom and I wrote 20 things on the board. And I went, separate them for me. Good for your brain, bad for your brain. 7-year-olds. They got 19 out of 20 right. So most people know. The only thing they got wrong was orange juice. They put it in the healthy category when, in fact, when is it rational to unwrap fruit sugar from its fiber source? Because it turns toxic in your body. So I'm not a fan of fruit juice. I'm a fan of fruit, not fruit juice. But so the bad category, hitting a soccer ball with your head. No, don't do that.
What's bad about sugar for the brain?
Pro-inflammatory.
What does that
It
mean?
makes you diabetic.
But I mean, as it relates to the brain, why is like orange juice or the ice cream bad for my brain?
Because it's ultimately going to give you high blood sugar levels, which erode your blood vessels, and you're going to have lower blood flow to your brain. That's a bad thing. I mean, there's so many things about it. So it's addictive. It's pro-inflammatory. It makes it more likely you're going to have diabetes and obesity. So 72% of Americans are overweight, 42% are obese.
Okay, so that one I understand. It's not like it's an acute problem that you're going to run into by just having one ice cream or a thing of orange juice. It's just the long-term process you're going to undergo with your body if you constantly consume fruit juice that's processed or ice cream or whatever else that's loaded with sugar, which erode your blood vessels in time, which eventually turns into diabetes in time, which leads to all the problems of high sugar diets in time. Inevitably, that affects your brain, but that affects your whole body. So I was expecting more acute. Let's see if he gets into some more unique, interesting ones.
I've published 3 studies on 35,000 people. As your weight goes up, the actual physical size and function of your brain goes down. That should scare the fat off anyone. I used to be chubby, but when I figured out that connection, I'm like, oh no, it was that gave me the motivation to drop about 25 pounds. And so sugar is the gateway drug to diabetes and obesity. And so, not to mention inflammation, which is the cause of depression and dementia. So
I've got sugar, I've got head injury. I'm going to avoid both of these things. What else should I avoid?
and then you have low blood flow in those 2 very important areas. And so how can we increase blood flow? So you want to avoid things that cause low blood flow: caffeine, nicotine.
Caffeine?
Caffeine constricts blood flow to the brain.
And what does that do to my brain?
Constricts blood flow. So you're going to get less blood flow. And remember, I showed you that progression with age. No, you don't want that. You want to do things that increase blood flow to your brain. So exercise. Ginkgo. This is one of the supplements I'm going to give you. Eat foods like beets, oregano, rosemary, cinnamon. They increase blood flow. And
do you think there's correlation or a link between caffeine consumption and a shrinking brain?
yes,
God,
And a shrinking brain, is that associated with things like dementia?
aging brain.
Jesus.
I don't think there's a connection. I haven't read any research that says there's a connection between caffeine and dementia. There's a connection with sleep problems, and there's connection with sleep problems.
Okay, so if you consume caffeine later in the day, which causes your sleep habits to become poor, which means you don't get restful sleep, which then means you're going to start having issues with memory loss, Alzheimer's, dementia, just brain degrading in general. All right, boys. I am a coffee addict. This has already been admitted. I love my coffee. I drink so much coffee, in fact, that I've become highly resistant. I was always highly resistant, so I needed more shots than normal. But it's become ritualistic in my life, and it's probably one of the few habits I have left that I'm trying to break, and I'm having a hard time breaking this one because I've already given up damn near everything except coffee. I even managed to give it up for a little bit. I was doing really high-end Japanese, like green tea grown in the shade, super high quality. I used to have a little ritual where I had everything automated. I would get my leaves. They were perfectly fresh, sealed straight from Japan, and make the like most fire green tea exactly how the ancients used to do it. And I kept that up, man, for months, but it's just not the same. When you go do 2-3 hours at the gym, when you go run for 2 hours nonstop, when you do this day in and day out, sometimes your sleep isn't that good. Sometimes life gets in the way. You need a little extra boost, and caffeine is what filled that hole for me. Unfortunately, like everybody else, it went from I need a little boost to I actually like drinking this all the time now. I could use this boost all the time, and then you get the dependency. So that's the stage I'm at. I'm not surprised. I've been noticing some cognition issues that I've attributed to probably heavy alcohol drinking when I was in college. Again, just heightened stress in the last 5 years. And for sure, my coffee consumption in the last 5 years has increased dramatically, including energy drinks, which have a ton of caffeine in them. It's not just coffee, but I would down energy drinks at the gym as well. I do notice that it's messing with my memory. It's messing with my clarity of my thoughts, my ability to generate new ideas. Like words will slip in my brain and I have to pause and try to like shuffle in there and reach for them. Something I do worry about, man. So I have noticed that I probably did damage my mind. And I've been actively combating it with, little brain games. Not even brain games, but reading is one. Writing down my thoughts, like journaling and stuff, and just in general, making my brain work. A little bit like when I was in school. Watch documentaries, memorize dates, memorize things a lot more in general. Stop relying on the phone as much to like quickly jot a thought down, try to remember it. Just little things like this. Treat it like a muscle. You got to keep working it, keep utilizing it. But be very careful, man, because even something as innocuous as caffeine could be, when used responsibly. The reality is we don't really use it we don't use anything responsibly hardly ever as human beings. It's just human nature. You do this thing, makes you feel good, want more good, do a ton of good all the time. Good becomes bad. And then now here's the negative side effects. That's human nature. So, and we're all, none of us are immune to it. So,
And dementia. Mm-hmm. I think if you have like 100 milligrams a day of caffeine, it's probably fine. But one venti Starbucks coffee has got 330 milligrams of caffeine.
Jesus.
And people just aren't thinking about the level of caffeine they're having in our society.
What are the other very obvious things that are not good for my brain? Because I really want to make sure that I avoid those things. So I've got sugar, head injury.
Erectile dysfunction. I mean, B is for blood flow, right? While we're on blood flow, 40% of 40-year-olds have erectile dysfunction. 70% of 70-year-olds have erectile dysfunction. What that means, if you have blood flow problems anywhere, it means they're everywhere. And so, no. And it means either you're too sedentary, you're overweight, you're smoking, or having too much caffeine, or using marijuana, because marijuana lowers blood flow to the brain.
All the weed heads punch in the air right now.
And so just in that one of the 11, it's exercise, ginkgo. And for you, not for everybody, but for you, hyperbaric oxygen. Those three things will make a big difference in blood flow.
Ginkgo. What is that?
It's a supplement.
What does it do?
Increases blood flow.
To the brain?
The prettiest brains I've ever seen take ginkgo. There's actually a SPEC study. They gave people 120 milligrams of ginkgo twice a day. Significant improvement in blood flow to the brain.
What?
And so in one of the supplements I'm going to give you, we have ginkgo. I've taken it every day for the last 20 years, at least. And then this is where the U.S. government got an F for the pandemic. Loneliness accelerates demand. And
Is that any shock right now? I'm ordering that supplement right now, by the way. But is there any shock? I'm a sucker. This dude sounds like he knows what he's doing. I'm gonna try it. But is there any surprise that loneliness breeds mental health issues? Have you noticed how disconnected and alone most of society is today? Have you noticed the increase, like the massive sharp rise in loneliness coinciding with a destabilized society where there's drug use, homelessness, violent crimes, public tragedies, you name it. We're all undergoing. Nobody is reporting that they're happier. That's the real pandemic of the West right now. Whatever society we've managed to create and all its great inventions and everything, we've sure done a shitty job of bringing along our traditional values that help get us here. We've cast away who we used to be in order to build this new world, and now we're paying for it because it's about to be destroyed. Who knows how many generations more it's going to last, but the empire is falling. All we'll have left of America is the great inventions, the great monuments that we built back during its heyday, kind of like what's left of a Roman Empire. It won't be in ruins, it'll be used by other people, but surely you can see it in the world today. If you've gone traveling, like I've been to Dubai and I've seen other videos of people in China, man, in some of the major cities, and like public transportation is insane. Just to compare, I should do a video on that. Healthcare is insane, just to compare. Infrastructure in general, the way bridges look, the way buildings are built, like the type of architecture that's being sprung up in these places. And then you go to America and you see dilapidated buildings, crumbling infrastructure, like rusted out bridges, roads full of potholes and metal plates. I mean, everything seems to be deteriorating in the West. All the great things we ever built, it's not maintained. We rarely build anything new of magnificence anymore to show the prowess, like the golden age of our culture. We can tell there's decay. We've entered the decay phase. And it's sad to see, because when you travel the rest of the world and you see how things are supposed to be, how things probably were back in the day when every building you walk by, when it was first built, when that road was first paved, when those neighborhoods were still new, when people cared about their communities and still maintained everything, nobody cares anymore. Our environment, we're abusing it. And you can see, just walk down the streets in America and just watch how crummy infrastructure look, buildings, everything, man. It's so sad. That alone makes you depressed.
brain problems. And so when they isolated us, the whole significant increase in brain problems. So get connected to other people. The I in Bright Minds is inflammation. So what increases inflammation? Low omega-3 fatty acid levels. And we are deficient. 93% of the population is deficient in omega-3 fatty acids. 93%. So all of us should be either eating more fish or taking an omega-3 supplement like fish oil. Gum disease. Like, who knew? Like, I wasn't really that good at taking care of my gums until I started reading the studies. You have gum disease, you have inflammation, you're more likely to get depressed and have dementia. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm a flossing fool.
Wow.
H is head trauma. We talked about that. I did the big NFL study when the NFL was struggling with the truth on traumatic brain injury in football. 80% of our players got better. T is toxins, drugs, alcohol, but other things like mercury and
what are the unobvious toxins? Because
anesthesia.
Anesthesia. I was looking at my bathroom items, and I have like mouthwash and toothpaste and deodorants and aftershaves, and I was wondering to myself whether those were toxic to some degree.
So there's an app. There's a couple of them, but the one I like is called Think Dirty, where you can scan those products and it'll tell you on a scale of 0 to 10 how bad they are for you. So 0 is you live a long time and 10 is you die early. And so when I figured this out and I was scanning everything, it cost me hundreds of dollars to replace things. And my wife, more than that, with all the makeup and stuff. But I shaved for 50 years with Barbasol. And it's a 9, which is die early.
God.
And now I shave with something called Kiss My Face, and it's a 2. It's like, we teach people, read the labels on food stuff. Should read the labels on anything that goes on your body or on your child's body. And we have this epidemic, and we'll get to it, of low testosterone in males because of the toxins we put on their bodies when they're young.
That's such a good point, because I've read that in the comment section a bunch of times. Talk about low T, talk about low T. We tell men to man up. How are we going to do that if we have low T? Well, the first step is detoxifying yourself from all these products. Like, you have to go natural on everything. You have to go natural on underwear, wear cotton only, don't wear that spandex, stretchy performance fit shit. You'll just read about how bad it is. You have to brush your teeth with all natural toothpaste. You have to use deodorant that's all natural, none of that aluminum shit in there. You have to also make sure your bed sheets are all natural, no synthetic fibers. The clothes you wear, washing your food, don't use the sink. We already know how bad tap water is. You have to buy huge bottles of water. That's how you wash your food, and that's what you cook your food in especially. Do not cook your food in tap water. All you do is concentrate all the gunk and nasty stuff that's in there while the water evaporates. What else is there? Store water in glass bottles if you can. Store food in glass containers. Don't store or heat up food in plastic. Try to use old school stainless steel or cast iron for cooking food. Don't use the Teflon stuff. There's nothing but poison on there. There's a million things, honestly. There's literally everywhere you look, you're getting poison. I'm probably leaching something from my mouse pad right here that my elbows are on. The point is, there's a very simple, broad stroke that you can do to save yourself. And that's essentially go back to basics. Get everything as natural and as unprocessed as possible. Food is the most important. Stop eating processed food. Simply buy stuff and make it yourself. If you like sweets, if you like candies, stop. Go back to fruits. Fruits are nature's candy. Then use honey if you're getting sugar cravings. It's far better than table sugar. Stop drinking these processed sodas and all this other crap. Go back to water. It's that simple. And if you want to get water to taste a little better, add some lemon and cucumbers in there. Very simple. Keep it as natural as you possibly can, and you will avoid a lot of the problems. And the American diet that we're typically under is so bad. So you have no idea. Almost every other diet, even some shitty diet like vegans, you can go and become a vegan and it's still better than the American diet, simply because you eliminate so much of the processed food. But if you go vegan and then you start eating like vegan cookies, vegan brownies, vegan all this, like vegan burgers, like the Beyond Meat shit, like you start to get sick again. You have stints and heart attacks, like nothing changes. All the bad shit happens. So eat a balanced diet. Meat primarily, fruits secondarily, veggies here and there, tubers here and there. Mostly meat and fruits. Just keep it that simple and you'll do very well. We're omnivores. We're meant to eat all this stuff. But obviously the most nutrition we take in is from meat. Fruits second. Tubers and veggies last. So take that as you will. If you Google, anything that you use, any product, I guarantee you're going to find something crazy about it and how that chemical is killing you slowly, disrupting your hormones, disrupting your endocrine system, yada, 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 man. And for a lot of people that have autoimmune issues today, a lot of that can be traced to being in these toxic environments that they're subjugating themselves to without even knowing. Honestly, no one teaches us this. That's what sucks. Like, you have to stumble upon this yourself. Most of the time it's too late because you're running into problems. You're either fat as shit, you're skinny as shit, you can't sleep, you're having issues gaining weight, issues losing weight, there's something wrong with you. And that's how you go down the rabbit hole of figuring out, like, oh my God, I'm being poisoned. Oh my God, I have to change everything. Everything I've ever been taught was incorrect. Shocker, bro. Our institutions have failed us. Not a surprise, especially after the last few years.
What is the M in bright?
So the M is mental health. It's the quality of your thoughts, the level of your stress, and the level of trauma you carry in your body, and whether or not you have any of the psychiatric stuff. Like depression, for example, doubles the risk of Alzheimer's disease in women and quadruples it in men. And so the M is what's going on in your mind. And so I teach people to kill the ants, the automatic negative thoughts that steal their happiness, understand and process their traumas, and treat whatever psychiatric issues may be present. Like in your case, the ADD. And I think we start with a supplement, or even consider medication, talk about the natural ways to do it, the medicine ways to do it. And for me, I'm not opposed to medicine. I'm actually really good at it. But it's never the first and the only thing I think about.
Last thing I wanted to ask you about is, well, there's really two outstanding questions that I have for you, Doctor. The first one is about screen time. People want to know, does screen time, this generation that have grown up 11 hours a day on a screen or social media, up to 11 hours a day, according to some studies, does that have an impact on our brain?
It does. It shrinks it. It's sad. I mean, what it does is it wears out your pleasure centers. So you have these two areas in your brain.
So when they're saying screen time, that is playing video games, that is watching anime, that is anytime you're in front of a screen, including right now watching this, including me watching this and working on the computer after this and editing this and putting it out. Yes, we're damaging ourselves. The point is you want to limit this as much as possible. And you should be doing everything you can to limit this stuff as much as possible. It's not a natural way to live, man. And it's gotten so much worse because short form content is so addicting. Sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but I'll open up Instagram and I'll try to go to send a message or look at a message, something like that. And a damn short comes up that grabs my attention. I watch this stupid short and then instinctively, I just scroll up instinctively. And then I'll catch myself like, what are you doing? Go back. You have a message from the group. Go back. What are you doing? I completely forgot what I wanted to do. I barely figured out on YouTube, you can turn off the shorts shelf on YouTube, which actually disables it on your phone as well. So I've managed to get rid of short form content on my phone and on YouTube in general, especially on my phone. Because I was, again, man, it's so addictive. I've stopped using TikToks. That's why even the way we do episodes has changed completely too. Used to source in the early days a ton of stuff on TikTok. I immediately noticed a hit in cognition and like short-term memory. My short-term memory after using TikTok and like constantly scrolling back in the day with Sophie to get content going, it was incredible, dude. The amount of struggle. It rots your brain and fast. This isn't like you need to do this for years, man. It hijacks you immediately. And you notice it in your behavior, your thought pattern, your speech, everything. So I didn't uninstall it, but I definitely haven't opened it and I maybe open it like once every couple of months. Like I stay off of that shit because I know it's not good for me. And now Instagram forces it down my throat, can't turn it off. Figured out how to turn it off on YouTube. And slowly but surely, I'm detoxing my brain, dopamine detoxing from social media completely.
Brain called the nucleus accumbens, and they respond to dopamine, and they bring you happiness, and they bring you pleasure, and they bring you motivation, and they bring you drive. And when you're hitting them, like every buzz on your phone, every notification, every time you scroll and you like something, you just got a little hit of dopamine. Well, the more you do it, pretty soon, you thrill them to death. You begin to wear out those pleasure centers. And let's just take fame, for example. I've been blessed to see Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus and a whole bunch of really fascinating, cool people who've been really depressed. It's like, how can you be depressed? You're Justin Bieber. Or how can you believe you're not enough, right? Because their pleasure centers get worn out by being noticed over and over and over again. Well, when you allow that in your brain, the screen time, 3.5 hours. If you're on for 3.5 hours a day, you have an increased risk of anxiety, depression, addiction, obesity, ADHD.
Sheesh.
And our society's on way more than that. And you go, so why are we having this epidemic of teenage suicide and mental health problems, especially in teenage girls? Social media. It's one of the big issues of the day. And not only are you wearing out your pleasure centers, you hate yourself because you think everybody's better than you are. It's the comparison dragon that is damaged.
That's perfect. Imagine how much social media women use. We're men, so we don't use nearly as much, just in general, the way a man is. And you can see the way profiles are tailored, like when a woman has selfie after selfie after selfie after selfie on her profile picture. That woman lives on Instagram, on social media in general, like lives for it. It's completely hijacked. So that's an easy way to explain of the herd mentality and how easy it is to control people with that kind of mindset. But the destructive power of social media on women. And we see it play out in dating today. Like when you go out on a date, it's very likely that she takes her cues on how to value you as a man, how to value herself as a woman, what she wants out of life. Children, marriage, career, all that stuff, her cues are taken from social media. There's not an original thought coming out of her brain. Quite literally make the joke of saying like a cell phone is surgically attached to a woman's hand in the world today. So if she doesn't text you back on time, it's because she's not interested, because she'll text the guy she's interested in immediately because their phone is always on them. Immediately, they have access to it right away. It's very rare that a woman can't text you within 60 minutes. Quite literally in the world today, it's sad, man. It really is sad, because if you're going to think into the future, imagine you become a father. Imagine you have a little girl. How do you combat all this that's been normalized in society today with algorithms that are designed to be predatory and hijack your brain? I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I think about that all the time. How would I guard my kids from this? Because what do? They need technology to be competitive against their peers. At the same time, if you give them access too early, like shove a tablet in front of your kid's face, give them a cell phone, they're going to get hooked. They have no chance. Their brains are still developing too. So you're going to permanently rewire part of a growing mind that will not be able to deal with the stressors of adulthood because they don't have the correct connections put in there. Their brains are optimized for the tablet, for the screen. So they go into adulthood and they can't compete. They're not prepped. They're depressed all the time. They burned out all of their receptors. And then you have the quintessential useless young adult that we have today, where they're not prepared for the real world at all. I don't know, man. I don't see society reversing this course unless we take drastic measures and clamp down on a bunch of these companies that are propagating this technology and making billions of dollars off our private data while they're at it. Shout outs, by the way, to everybody that's bought some shirts. I'm wearing my Deli one right now. Thank you so much for the support, guys. It does mean a lot and it does make a huge difference. So if you've bought some shirts already, thank you. If you're thinking about it, it's 10% off for your first purchase, and super grateful, guys. Catch you next time.